I remember once hearing somebody say this: you educate a man, you educate a man. You educate a woman, you educate a generation. Elizabeth Clarice Lange. She probably never heard that quote, but she experienced it, she lived it, and she spent almost 100 years trying to put it into action. No one is quite certain when she was born. Some think she was born in Haiti in 1784, and then her family fled after a revolution to Cuba. Elizabeth was a well-educated woman. Her family had some financial means. In the early 1800s, she came to Baltimore. Now, at that time, the free African American population actually outnumbered the city's slave population, and many of those who were slaves and former slaves had fled Haiti during the Revolution. Elizabeth Lange arrives in Baltimore, and as soon as she enters the city, she immediately faces challenges. She is a well-educated, free black woman living in a slave state. She was a woman in a male-dominated culture. She spoke French, and she was a Catholic in a predominantly Protestant city that had shown great animosity toward the Catholic Church. Now, she probably could have left. She did have the financial ability to go north where things might have been a little easier for her. But she decided to stay. And one of the things that bothered her was that the free African American children were not allowed to go to school. And as an educated woman, she was shocked and dismayed to see young girls, young black girls, having no access to education. So she winds up meeting a priest, Father Joubert, who encouraged her to create the first American school for young black girls. And it soon grew, and they needed to find another location. It was not easy for her to buy the land because of all those challenges. But she founded in 1828 St. Francis Academy, which exists to this day. She was a deeply religious Catholic, and she wanted to pursue a religious life. She wanted to be a nun. But she was not able to be a nun, to enter a religious life, because no religious order would take a woman who was not white as a candidate. So schools did not want young black girls. Elizabeth decided she found a school for them. Religious orders did not want young black girls, so she founded her own. On July the 2nd, 1829, with the help of a local bishop, Mother Mary Lange took vows with 3 other women, and they formed the first order that would allow women of color to enter, the Oblate Sisters of Divine Providence. And some of the first sisters were former slaves. Now, the order would spread to create more schools. Eventually, some would admit boys. It's astounding when you realize that she started a school for girls when it was against the law to educate children of color. But she lived to almost 100 years old. There was never a moment in her long life that this educated and deeply religious woman did not face bigotry. In 1832, there was a cholera epidemic in Baltimore, and her order worked tirelessly to assist those who were sick, the dying, and many of the sisters of that order, they died of cholera. To understand how deep the racism was in that city of Baltimore, there was an order of nursing sisters, nursing nuns. They were all white. They really didn't do a lot during the epidemic. They received recognition by the government of the city of Baltimore for their contributions, while Mother Lange's order, that had done the bulk of the work, were completely ignored. In 1850, an anti-Catholic sentiment saw her school physically attacked. No one in that government stepped forward to decry it or to help her. But here's the thing. She was a woman of faith. It was her personality, it was her kindness, it was her zeal that drew others to admire her and others to support her. She held many positions over her many years with that order. In her latter years, she ran a night school for African American adults who wanted to learn how to read. Eventually, white women would join this congregation, so that it became a group of women of all different backgrounds and colors working to educate children, especially those who were left behind. She never tired of fighting for those in need. She died well into her 90s in 1882. Looking back over the last few months, I can't imagine the challenges that parents have faced in this virtual learning environment. Parents who are trying to juggle the daily tasks of home life, many who are working from home, others who had to go to their jobs, and all of them trying to help their children learn their lessons. It's a juggling act that I know I don't have the skill for. So I have a great admiration for all of you. And I also have a great heart for those of you who missed some of the other aspects of education. The sports teams, the school plays, the proms, and yes, even the graduations. I think if we could hear Mother Lange's voice now, we'd hear her congratulate you and bless you to see how you in your lives have persevered. She believed that love conquers all the challenges. And by love, she didn't mean emotion or giving someone a socially distant hug. She knew love as this grace from God, this power to do what is hard, to do what's inconvenient, to do what might even cost you your own life. Mother Lange would continue to tell us to follow the example of Jesus, who shows what real love is. It's serving when it's hard and inconvenient and risky, and standing with others in need, believing that in doing those things, we're answering God's call. I also think that Mother Lange's voice would challenge us. Poverty and inequality still exist, and there are many young people who don't have access to the education opportunities that many others do. Many children didn't even have a tablet or a computer when this whole online class learning began. And schools not in session, well, they're the place where many children get breakfast and lunch. For some, their only real meal of the day. So dear Mother Lange, filled with immense love, she challenged us with her voice to value education for all and to stand with those who do not have access to the things that we often take for granted. And she would also tell us that in the end, we are all teachers. That is, we teach others by the way we live our life, by the way that we follow Jesus, that we would teach as Jesus did. By our words, yes, but even more by our example. That's the way that we bring people together. That is the way that others come to know that the Lord indeed is in our midst.